Hello. Today we're diving into my collection of antique postcards once again, and I'd like to show you something unusual. Adverts designed to destroy the thing they were advertising. Here are some beautiful views of the countryside, absolutely idyllic. Now, as to who published this, the clue is at the bottom of each card. They tell you which station you can get off at to reach these wonderful places. And they're all on the Hampstead Tube. The Hampstead Tube was more officially known as the Charing Cross, Euston and Hampstead Railway. But its owners knew the value of a catchy title, so they were absolutely fine with the shorter version. Nowadays it's known as part of the Northern Line. These postcards are very old indeed. On the back we see that they state that the Hampstead Tube has just been opened, which means that these were likely published in the second half of 1907. The Hampstead Tube opened on the 22nd of June 1907 in a ceremony performed by future Prime Minister David Lloyd George. A party was held at the Old Bull and Bush. That's not relevant, I just happen to have some footage of that pub. Interestingly, the postcards refer to the line as the last link in the London Underground, which it wasn't, not by a long shot. What can I say, the CCEHR were confident. The northern termini of the Hampstead line back then were at Golders Green and Archway, which back then was known as Highgate. Now, it was common for railways to produce postcards advertising their services. You know, look at this beautiful view, and by the way, you can get here on our trains. The bread and butter of lines like the Hampstead Tube was commuter traffic, but leisure traffic meant that they could make money during evenings, weekends and public holidays. But leisure travel wasn't the only motivation here. The brains behind getting the Hampstead Tube built was the American Tycoon and ex-convict Charles Tyson Yerkes. He and his company, Underground Electric Railways of London, acquired the Hampstead Tube during its early stages, when development had stalled due to a lack of funds. He expanded the scope of the line. Rather than terminating at Hampstead, as was the original plan, he extended the line to Golders Green. Now, there were many on this side of the pond who were suspicious of Mr. Yerkes. They feared that he was planning to sell the land he acquired to developers who would cover the beautiful countryside north of London in cheap houses. The Metropolitan Railway did just that, so it's not as if their fears were totally unfounded. The other reason their fears were well-founded was because, to be honest, that's not a million miles off being exactly what Yerkes wanted to do. America had seen the rise of what were known as streetcar suburbs, new communities that grew up around tramlines rather than the tramline being built to existing towns. And Yerkes hoped to replicate that with his underground lines. That was why he terminated the line at Golders Green. Oh sure, he hoped you'd take a nice trip to Golders Hill, but he also hoped that while you were there, he could interest you in moving in permanently. Evidence of this lies with what happened at North End. When the land around the station was acquired for extending the heath, Yerkes lost interest, and the station they planned to build there was abandoned. The purpose of these postcards, therefore, was to sucker you in. You'd see them, you'd think, what a nice place to visit. Then you'd visit, and maybe you'd think, what a bucolic scene, wouldn't it be wonderful to live here? So you buy a lovely new house and you settle in, taking the electric tube train to work every morning. And then a bunch of other people do the same, and in a few years you're no longer living in the countryside. Urban planning with the help of a bait and switch. Well, I hope you enjoyed this charmingly rural tale from the Tube. If so, please do leave a like and consider subscribing for more. I would like as ever to thank my donors on Ko-fi, on Patreon and here on YouTube for your support. You are the affordable mortgage to my new house in Golders Green. And I'll see you all again very soon. Cheerio.